Jersey cows are one of the island's most prized resources when it comes to farming, but an even more valuable asset may lie beneath their feet. The dairy's turned its attention to the power of its land as a means of removing and storing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. It's for that reason they're exploring a new drilling technique to plant grass seeds and avoid ploughing, to stop the carbon stored there being re-released into the atmosphere.
We've got strong carbon sequestration in the soil which we're standing on now, because the soil hasn't been disturbed, the roots of the grass have gone down, and we've built up this carbon reserve.
Carbon sequestration has happened naturally since the beginning of time. Trees and plants reduce levels of carbon in the atmosphere by taking in carbon dioxide, photosynthesizing it to make food, and releasing it as oxygen. About 17% of that carbon becomes stored in the leaves, trunk and branches. But about 4 times more, 72% of the carbon, is stored underground. It finds its way into the soil through the plant's roots, where it's broken down by microorganisms. Unlike trees and plants, which can die or be chopped down and lose their carbon store, carbon sequestered in the soil can stay there for thousands of years. Work to maintain the farm's hedgerows and wetlands not only benefits the wildlife, but also improves their potential to act as a carbon store. Where many farmers may have previously left fields exposed in between harvests, they're now using cover crops to improve soil health.
The clovers naturally fix nitrogen, so that then reduces the need for our fertilisers we use for the following Jersey Royal crop. Where we buy all our cover crops from, they are doing huge research into identifying the best different plants and species which can use up the most amount of carbon.
I hope there's worms in this.
Microbiologist Glyn has the evidence of the benefits of improving soil health at his fingertips.
All this is their food matter which they're pulling down into the soil and then eating. That's how the carbon gets back into the soil.
The carbon farm has been a test bed for sustainable farming methods, including using cover crops and natural fertiliser made from compost. The two sides of this field have received different treatment, and the evidence is clear.
So that one is really just the traditional ways of farming, which is very much not returning much back to nature. And this one, because you can see the residue on the field that's been left, we're leaving something for Mother Nature to actually regenerate.
It's not just carbon that has the potential to be stored in the soil. Jersey Dairies enlisted the help of an expert to measure the output of methane from its cows, with the potential to remove it and store it underground.
We're thinking of putting a pipe under the noses of these cows, which are busy feeding away, and they'll just gently puff into a pipe with lots of holes in it, and you extract the air. You can either remove it chemically, or you could, for example, pass it through some soil, and then soil bacteria will remove it, and actually it'll make it a bit more fertile, and then grow some tomatoes on it or something. And we're trying to figure out in the barns whether that's actually worth doing, because you'll spend energy and effort on removing the methane.
Energy isn't the only implication. Sequestration would mean changing farming methods and potentially experiencing lower yields, all of which comes at a cost to farmers. But the carbon farm is hoping to incentivise companies to finance that change whilst offsetting their own emissions through a new carbon code.
So the farmer has to do certain practices, has to change their practices and commit to certain standard operating procedures, which enables the carbon to flow into the ground. And then what the code does is it measures and records and verifies that carbon and enters it into the exchange or the market, if you see what I mean, to enable that transaction to happen.
The code may be yet to get off the ground, but it's hoped it could be exported overseas and become a new industry in its own right. But farmers on the island are already realising the potential of their land on their own journey to carbon neutrality. Holly Goodall, ITV News.